You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
Today we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics. How do you find great ideas? And to do that, we're going to have one of our favorite guests, NACS Chairman Jared Scheeler. Welcome to Convenience Matters. My name's Jeff Lenard with NACS.
And I'm Chris Blasinsky with NACS.
And today, Chris and I are going to talk to Jared just about, how do you find ideas? What keeps you going and what keeps you looking at how do you find the next great thing? So welcome, Jared.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me today. I look forward to the discussion.
Last time we talked, you just finished a debrief that you worked with your employees. You had a 2-day retreat, or the better part of 2 days, where you brought people in and you said everything's on the table. Let's look at how do we address all these issues that we're facing related to labor. Do you have any sort of update on that in what came out of that? Were there any things in particular that you moved along, or has that taught you anything about how to do future types of events like this with staff?
Absolutely, Jeff. So just as a little bit of recap, I mean, everybody in the industry is facing the same issues with labor that I am. Just not enough people that are interested in working. Labor rates are skyrocketing. And my objective in bringing the team together was to essentially look at ways to reinvent how we've always looked at labor. And like you said, everything was on the table. There was no bad ideas. And, we spent a good part of 2 days talking about this topic and this topic alone. And yeah, we've had some few takeaways from it. And I think they really worked out for us in positive ways. And then there's some other things that we talked about that we're working on as more of long-term solutions. So I'd say first and foremost, the one that I really have loved, and it's worked out so well for us this summer, just because business picks up quite a bit. I mean, we're a seasonal industry in a sense. Our summer business is certainly higher than winter, especially here in North Dakota. So we see a nice boost in the summer, and it's hard to adapt to that increase in business. So we actually enacted some gig workers, in this case, all younger workers who are covering specialty areas within our stores. In most cases, it's the cooler. The cooler vault gets so many hits during the summer. We're pushing, some stores pushing 1,200 individual beverages per day. That's a lot. That's a lot to restock. And it's hard to absorb that with the existing labor that we schedule, say, on a typical basis, maybe when it's not hot out. So what we did is we found a group of high school students who I love hiring high school students, but we found a large group of friends. They were friends, and we essentially challenged them, keep the cooler stocked. So, between all of them, there's a group of about 8 of them and at one of our stores, and between all of them, they fill a cooler shift once per day during the week. Weekends not as busy for us. So, but between all of them, so we have 8 workers filling 5 shifts only. So they have a lot going on. But we're flexible with them. They're flexible with us. We don't essentially care when they do it, just as long as that cooler gets taken care of sometime during the day. So we've done it for cooler. We've done it for bakery. And that's worked well for us as well.
And one other thing, Jared, about hiring friends, I imagine you have fewer call-outs and those various things that people will do where it's just like, I don't feel like working today, because you can't really add a friend's double work or something like that. So has that worked out well?
It has, and I think the general premise on why that has worked so well for us is because when you have a group of friends who decide to do something together, they all say, let's go work at the hub. Let's try to fill this need that they have, and let's do it together. There's a sense of pride amongst that friend group that they want to do it right, they want to do it responsibly, and kind of a byproduct of it is is that that friend group keeps on growing, or the people that they influence continues to grow between other classes or other grades, adjacent to this group of workers. They happen to be all males, but now there's some females coming in. So it's just the domino effect of bringing in high school workers has always been a positive for us, and it's continued in this situation as well.
Is there any friendly competition among them? I mean, as a teenager, that's what I would do.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like I said, it's about 8 high school juniors, and they challenge each other. I did the cooler better than you, or sometimes they'll go work the car wash. I made more tips in the car wash than you, and I see that banter all the time. But they're having fun with it, and what's the point of work if we're not going to enjoy it?
And where did that idea start from?
That came back from just talking to our team about how we're going to accomplish the things that we need to accomplish. Our team of leaders. How do we accomplish what we need to accomplish in different ways? And as far as how this came about, we had an existing team member, and we mentioned that idea to some of our team members. We had an existing high school team member who works quite a few hours for us, just does a tremendous job. He's wise beyond his years. I could use about 15 more of them, but he's the one who reached out to his friends because his friends wanted to work. They wanted to earn some money, kind of take advantage of the high labor rates that everybody's paying out right now. But with all the activities with sports and such that they were in this summer, it was hard for them to be able to do that. And what we did is granted them the flexibility to be able to make a few bucks, but also essentially work when they want and when they can.
Jared, I just want to go back a second for the folks who may not know the hub or familiar with the area that you're in, because we are talking high school, and your town of Dickinson, North Dakota is, relatively small. It's a good tight-knit community. We visited you several years ago for Ideas to Go and got the lay of the land. So in talking about these high school kids, I mean, they really are, they're your customers.
Absolutely. I mean, Dickinson is a town of about 25,000 people. The rest of my stores are in towns of 2,500 or less, even down to 500 for a population of one of the towns that we do business in. But we're a big part of the community. We always have been. So this is kind of just a natural fit for us to be able to reach out to these high school students and make them part of our team.
We talked about how you get ideas from staff. You also get ideas and share ideas when people come to Dickinson, which, as Chris and I know, isn't the easiest place to get to, but it's definitely worth it when you have a chance to see a couple of those stores. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the folks who have visited and how you schedule meetings and have somebody come in and just kind of show them what you're up to there?
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. I mean, I think one of the beautiful things about this industry is that we're also willing to share what we know, share what we've learned, share our best practices, share things that haven't worked. And that really comes into effect across from big companies to small companies. But I think right now, in this age of consolidation, small retailers really need to stick together and have each other's back. And when I became the chairman of NACS this past October, I made it an objective to help as many small retailers as I can to take their game to the next level. And that's manifested itself in some visits that I've had out to Dickinson, North Dakota. Yeah, you mentioned, every time I travel somewhere, it's kind of a pain in the butt to get anywhere from Dickinson. I kind of, am sure it's the same way getting here as well. But it's been a tremendous honor to host retailers from around the country right here in Dickinson to learn from each other. I mean, the kind of the dirty little secret is they come thinking they're learning from me, and I think most of the time I take away more than I might have given them at the end of the day, just because there's so many great retailers in this industry. But I've had quite a few over this past calendar year. I mean, I go back to last summer. Clay and Mia Lambert came out from the Twin Cities. They have a single store in the Twin Cities, right in the Minneapolis metro area on the University of Minnesota campus. Had a terrific visit from them. And then right after the NACS show, a gentleman who I had never met before, his name is Jolly Walia. He was looking to build a store in the Dallas area. So he had, kind of like me, so I have 5 stores right now. He had, I believe, 6 stores, sold them all. They were kind of the older gas station, what I like to refer as our grandfather's gas station. Those stores that really aren't going to make it unless they decide to evolve. Well, Jolly sold those. He wanted to get out of those kind of stores so he could get in and jump on the new wave of what convenience ought to be. So he was in the planning stages of building a absolutely gorgeous store, and he wanted, like me, he wanted to do it right. He wanted to do it right. He wanted to look like it wasn't a one-off. So he came up to pick my brain, and boy, what a great 2 days. In fact, he brought his wife, he brought his 2 children. They made a vacation out of it, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. But that was a tremendous visit. And then just this past month here, Chris Bamberry from Sonoma, California, flew out to take a look at the operations, to hang out a little bit, to see some new country that he hadn't seen before. But like I said, Jeff, it's just been a tremendous honor to be able to host fellow retailers from around the country. So on the
flip side of that, who did you get to visit in the last year?
Well, I'm seemingly always on the road for one reason or another, whether it's travels through NACS or personal travels through my daughter's AAU basketball. But I spent quite a bit of time in the Twin Cities this summer. Spent some time in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I got kind of a behind-the-scenes look at a Casey's operation in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, through a connection I have through NACS, and that's just been, I learned so much when I get to do that. So that was really the highlight of my visits. And then, I really also spent a lot of time visiting my old company that I used to work for, Bobby and Steve's Auto World. Just built a new store in St. Paul, Minnesota, so I got to see that right before they opened it, and that was exciting as well.
And I would imagine that when you hit the road with the family, they know that, just like a lot of us in the industry, that you're going to be making some stops along the way. Not just pit stops, but you're going to be stopping and visiting stores, whether it's convenience stores or some other format. Do you look at other formats in particular when you're on the road and say, hey, that's something I want to look at. I know it's not convenience, but I think we can learn a lot from it.
In fact, I get so many ideas from other businesses and other channels who are innovative. And a lot of it's in food service, just because you see different types of cuisine or different types of equipment, or different ways of going about business. And that's where I take so many mental notes. But yeah, when I make road trips, I have almost scheduled stops at various places that I want to see, or various stores within our channel that I want to stop at, because whether it's just a high volume store in a busy area, or a truck stop that has a food court containing 4 different QSRs, I want to see how they do it. I want to see how many people they have working. I want to see how the flow of business goes. So yeah, I'm always a student of the industry, really a student of retail and food service. Always taking mental notes. But I think a lot of times, especially here in North Dakota, you kind of just get kind of caught up in the same old, and taking the opportunity to go to areas that are, say, maybe more developed or more advanced, or have more options. There's so much to learn out there. So I really, really enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah, I was on the road a little bit this weekend and went through Haymarket in Virginia, and we stopped off at a sheet store that had 3 self-checkout counters, which was really neat because I got to use it, and I hadn't used that in a Sheetz lately. Are you seeing? I think that's one. Well, let me back up. That's one of the ideas that we've that we've kind of picked up on in the past year or two is the self-checkout in convenience stores. And I think there's just more proliferation within our industry than I've seen in the last few years. Is that something that you're looking at, or do you already do it?
Do not do it. It is absolutely something that I'm looking at. If you would have asked me a year ago if I wanted to do self-checkout, I would have given you reason after reason after reason why I didn't want to do it. And in hindsight, none of it really makes sense. None of those ideas in my head really made sense because, I mean, you imagine, I look at myself, I go to a grocery store or Walmart. I don't care how many manned check lanes are open. I'm going to self-checkout 100 times out of 100. I don't care how big my order is. And that's just because I want to be in control. I think I'm faster. And why would that not carry over into our industry? So it's something that I have been closed to in the past, but it's something that I'm actively, in fact, this year's NACS Show, that's going to be one of my biggest things that I'll be looking at is the best ways to implement self-checkout.
Yeah, I think, for me, I'm kind of the opposite. When it's a big grocery shop, I get in the line so someone else can do it. But when it's the smaller, small to medium where I can handle, 2 or 3 bags, I'd rather do it.
And that's what that's every single transaction in our industry is a relatively small transaction.
Yeah.
So I just have to imagine that there's an appetite for it out there.
Absolutely. And so speaking of the NACS Show, at this recording, we're 53 days away, which terrifies us every time we say that. But that's this is your year as chairman, and every year at the NACS Show we turn the gavel over to someone else. So you've had I think a pretty amazing year as the first chairman in a while that got to do the live events and didn't have to be virtual and was able to get out and see things in the industry and travel. So I think, coming into the end of the tenure, as they say, what are some of the things that you've seen and done that just, maybe you wouldn't have been able to do had it not been for the NACS chairmanship?
Well, certainly. And you mentioned it. I do not take for granted how blessed I am that I've been able to get out and about and see people, have visitors here, attend events as chairman, because we went a long stretch where a lot of that stuff just didn't happen. And the fact that we are moving back towards normalcy has just been great. And like I said, I feel extremely blessed by it. But, looking back at the chairmanship, as I said earlier, my biggest takeaway was I was hoping to inspire more small retailers across this country by what I do, what I know, what I've learned, and hopefully having the ability to share that. And I've had so many opportunities to do it, and it's gone so much better than I could have even imagined. I've built friendships out of it. I've learned so many things that I didn't know through these friendships. But I think, having the ability to help and being in a position to help, I'm extremely grateful for. I probably wouldn't have had that opportunity if I weren't NACS chairman. It just opens the doors to so many things. And that's my biggest takeaway from the year.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what folks will see when they get to the NACS Show this year within the Ideas to Go program, which we're pulling together right now, we do have we have a single store operator, we have a 2-store operator, we have an 800 store operator, we have a very large tech company. I mean, we're kind of, we have a mid-size operator. So we are showcasing a lot of the ideas that, we've been talking about from all sizes of operations. So I think it'll be a really good representation of our industry and where everybody's at. And seeing that even with, a few stores to many hundreds, there are things that everybody can do. You don't have to be, a big, massive company to do self-checkout or something like that.
Yeah, I think some of the most amazing ideas are from independent operators and even single store operators. We have to think, we have to be extra creative to stand out. It is becoming more and more challenging for us to compete with the big chains. I mean, they just are doing such a great job right now and have so much traction. So we have to be creative. And yeah, a lot of those great ideas come from those single store operators.
I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. What's the best idea that you've seen outside of our channel that you would love to implement in a convenience store environment?
You know, it's hard for me to, it's really all technology based. I mean, this is kind of pie in the sky for me because our industry has staked its claim on great properties, great real estate, being able to provide a lot of things to a customer in a quick amount of time. And that's worked for us for so long, and it's going to continue to work for us. But, seeing some of these companies and how they've digitized, it's the big machine, but, Walmart does such a great job. I mean, they're offering fuel discounts to Walmart Plus members through their app, and at places that like mine, that provide fuel, that are competitors to them essentially. So, to be able to keep up with that, or to even play in that realm, to me is kind of the ultimate dream. But there's so many people who are doing such a great job in tech, and I love following that.
But let's just stay on ideas for a minute, because I think that's the beauty of this industry, is that as convenience retailers, you are so willing to share, and that's something that other industries would salivate over because they aren't that willing to share. And so I think our competitive advantage in the market is that you do have retailers who help each other out. And like you said, with being the small operators and having each other's backs, I think that's very commendable for you guys and, within this industry. And, looking forward to the NACS Show, like you said, the tech space is always a hot area. There's also really great innovation with food and food packaging and things like that. And consumer preferences are changing all the time. I guess that's my question for you is, gosh, just navigating consumers and how much they change, because it just seems to be fairly constant, and yet this industry is able to do it. Like, what are some of the ways that you guys, just look to stay ahead of that?
Well, I'm going to actually move in a different direction, Chris, to answer your question. There are so many things that are constantly changing. And there's a lot of experimenting going on out there. Consumer habits have changed. Shopping behavior has changed. I think COVID changed a lot of things for a lot of people in this country. But when you really, really sit back and look at it, there is a constant that I think we don't rely on enough. I think it is the true answer to the labor issue. And that constant is leadership. I think leadership solves a lot of problems for a lot of people, and I mean true leadership, the ability to inspire, the ability to win people's hearts. So you talk about how do you keep up with what the consumer wants. We need to be able to connect with them first, and I think once we can do that on a person-to-person basis, if we can, that's the root of our industry. That's really how we've grown so much and so fast over the decades, and our industry is a monster because of those relationships that we built. But we've won hearts of so many customers, that are regulars, and I think leadership is the answer to a lot of the things that provide challenge for us right now.
Absolutely.
I think that sets up just my final question. I want to ask a light question. You have a lot of hats that you wear. Chair, CEO, all your titles within the family. You can add student to that. Now you have a new one, coach. You want to talk about anything that you've learned from your new role in coaching basketball?
Yeah, Jeff. So just a few months ago, I accepted a position as a head coach of a high school girls basketball team. Now, I have been coaching basketball for the past 8 years, all at lower levels. So I've never been fully in charge of an entire program. But to me, there are so many parallels between coaching and running a business, and I think that it's kind of reopened my eyes into essentially what the simplicity of how we ought to be dealing with our people within our stores from a leadership standpoint. And as a quick aside, Jeff, you might remember this. You came out to visit me when I was at my old company, Bobby and Steve's Auto World in the Twin Cities back in probably 2005 or 6. And at that time, part of our uniform was wearing a whistle around our neck because it symbolized that we were teachers and coaches in our positions of leadership within our convenience stores. But I think it's so true. That's exactly what we are. There's so many parallels between coaching, between leading. They're really the same thing. But what I've really discovered in my time is, you look at the objective of a coach. A, you're attempting to make a positive experience for everybody who's in the program, and B, you're attempting to meld all the pieces of a team into maximum performance. And it's such a simple concept, but I think in many ways I've lost a little bit sight of that within my businesses. Making the most positive experiences possible for every individual on the team and trying to get the most out of what skills and strengths that they bring to the team. So that's been an increased focus just because of the wake-up call of being in a coaching position, and putting all those pieces together for maximum performance on the team. It's really fun. It becomes a game. Once you start on that path, and I found myself a little bit upset with myself that I kind of lost that over the years. But coaching, it's fired me back up.
Well, maybe retailers will have a chance to visit the winning team this fall on the court and off the court, and just continuing to share ideas out there. Jared, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you all for listening to Convenience Matters, and for those who like this episode and all the others, please subscribe and you'll get your weekly feed of ideas and ways to improve your business. So thank you, Jared, and thank you all for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.